orders Israel to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza. Trump ordered to pay Jean Carroll $83.3 million. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jessica Lee and you're watching World Today. The World Court ordered Israel to take action to prevent acts of genocide as it wages war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. But it stopped short of calling for an immediate ceasefire. Now, ruling on a case brought by South Africa, the court said Israel must ensure its forces did not commit genocide and take measures to improve the humanitarian situation for Palestinian civilians in the enclave.
In accordance with its obligations under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in relation to the Palestinians in Gaza, take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention, in particular, A, killing members of the group, B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, and D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group.
The judges also not ruled on the merits of the genocide allegations, which may take years to decide. Following the announcement by the International Court of Justice in The Hague, Palestinian Ambassador Riyad Mansour said it was a historic day and that he expected the issue to be discussed in the Security Council.
It is a historic day and we are in close collaboration and consultation with South Africa. In fact, we met with them in Kampala at the level of foreign ministers. And they instructed, and we agreed with them, that once the ICJ adopt the provisional measures, the two delegations of the State of Palestine and South Africa will coordinate in New York as to what needs to be done. We are digging into all the details in order to take the appropriate steps, which, of course, these steps will be in the Security Council. If one to look at the provisional measures separately and collectively, it gives the clear message that in order to do all the things that they're asking for, you need a ceasefire for it to happen.
Riyad also said that justice for the Palestinian people is the only way forward, asserting that further violence will not solve the present conflict. In accordance with the statute of the International Court of Justice, Secretary General Antonio Guterres will promptly transmit the notice of the provisional measures ordered by the court to the Security Council.
In the southern part of the Gaza Strip, particularly in Khan Yunis, Palestinians face intensive Israeli military actions, leading to a dire humanitarian situation. Now, on Friday, Israeli occupation forces issued evacuation orders forcing residents to leave their homes amid ongoing air and ground operations.
The Israeli Army's directive prompted residents, including the elderly, the wounded and children, to evacuate Khan Yunis and seek refuge in Rafah. This move comes as part of the continuous Israeli offensive. So far, Palestinian health officials reported at least 26,100 casualties, predominantly women and children, with around 64,500 injuries. The relentless Israeli military actions have left 85% of Gaza's population internally displaced, grappling with acute shortages of essential resources like food, clean water, and medicine. The United Nations indicates that 60% of the enclave's infrastructure has been damaged or destroyed.
Meanwhile, a hearing was held in federal court in Oakland, California on Friday, in which Palestinian human rights organizations and individuals sued members of the Biden administration for failing to prevent the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza by Israel.
The lawsuit, which names U.S. President Joe Biden, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin as defendants, aims to force the U.S. to fulfill its international law duty to prevent and seize being complicit through unconditional financial and diplomatic support in the unfolding genocide. The plaintiffs and co-counsel said the defendants must abide by the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, a human rights treaty of which the U.S. is a member. The Justice Department has argued in filings that the court was weighing into areas that are constitutionally committed to the political branches, U.S. foreign policy decisions about the conflict in Gaza. The department also said that an injunction would intrude into areas committed to the political branches of the government and violate constitutional separation of powers. The hearing comes hours after the World Court ordered Israel on Friday to prevent acts of genocide against Palestinians and do more to help civilians, although it stopped short of ordering a ceasefire as requested by the plaintiff, South Africa.
The government of Argentina's Libertarian President Javier Milei is withdrawing key fiscal measures from a sweeping omnibus bill after facing stiff political opposition. Now, the measures, which include tax and pension reforms, intends to introduce sweeping changes and deregulation to Argentina's economy.
Many of Milei's reforms thus far are being challenged in court, with more than 60 lawsuits underway by labor unions, business chambers and NGOs. Economy Minister Luis Caputo said the withdrawal of the fiscal portion of the bill does not imply that they are going to give up their commitment to achieve fiscal balance, the goal of zero deficit. Milei said this week that the South American nation is closer to being able to comply with his proposal to dollarize the economy, which Caputo agreed with. Now, tens of thousands of Argentines took to the streets earlier this week, and many downed tools in a major challenge to Milei's budget-slashing policies. As an outsider candidate, Milei rode a wave of anger over decades of economic decline to win the December election. Now, under the slogan, "There is no money," he vowed to drastically cut spending in Argentina, where inflation exceeded 200% last year. He has since devalued the peso by more than 50%, cut state subsidies for fuel and transport, and reduced the number of ministries by half.
Coming up next, New Year quake damage in Japan could cost $17 billion. A jury in New York ordered former U.S. President and 2024 candidate Donald Trump on Friday to pay $83.3 million to compensate the writer E. Jean Carroll, whom he was found to have sexually assaulted and defamed. Now, the civil order, which prompted an audible gasp in the federal court, far exceeds the more than $10 million in damages for defamation that Carroll had sought.
Trump lashed out almost immediately, calling the verdict ridiculous in a statement and promising to appeal. The jury reached its decision after slightly less than 3 hours of deliberations. Now, Trump had been in court earlier, storming out at one point, but subsequently returning for closing arguments. He was not in court when the level of compensatory and punitive damages were read out by a court clerk. A juror exchanged a smile with Carroll as the 9 men and women left the courtroom after the judge encouraged them to protect their privacy. The order comprised $65 million in punitive damages after the jury found Trump acted maliciously in his many public comments about Carroll, $7.3 million in compensatory damages, and $11 million for a reputational repair program.
Now, the cost of the damage wreaked by a huge New Year's Day earthquake that killed at least 236 people in central Japan could reach $17.6 billion. Now, the magnitude 7.5 earthquake and its aftershocks devastated parts of Ishikawa Prefecture on the Sea of Japan coast, toppling buildings, ripping up roads, and sparking a major fire.
Damage in Ishikawa and two neighboring regions is likely to cost between $7.4 billion and $17.5 billion. A Cabinet Office official confirmed the figures, which were calculated using data from past major earthquakes. But even the top estimate is much less than the $114.2 billion damage caused by the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in northeastern Japan. Now, authorities on Thursday revealed detailed reconstruction plans for Ishikawa, where snow and badly damaged roads have complicated relief efforts in the quake's aftermath. They include improvements to shelters for evacuees, along with subsidies for rebuilding factories and ports, as well as attracting tourists to the area.
The southern U.S. state of Alabama put to death a convicted murderer using nitrogen gas. The first time the country had used a method that the UN rights chief said may amount to torture.
Kenneth Eugene Smith was on death row for more than 3 decades after being convicted of the 1988 murder for hire of a pastor's wife. He was put to death at Holman Prison in Edmore, Alabama by nitrogen hypoxia, which involved pumping nitrogen gas into a face mask, causing him to suffocate. According to media witnesses, he began writhing and trashing for approximately 2 to 4 minutes, followed by around 5 minutes of heavy breathing. The United Nations Human Rights Chief Volker Turk said he deeply regretted the execution. He said a novel and untested method of suffocation by nitrogen gas may amount to torture or cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment.
Sports, sensational Sinner dethrones Djokovic to reach Australian Open final. First up is badminton. Independent shuttler Lee Zijia's run in the Indonesian Masters has come to an end after he was forced to retire from his quarterfinal match due to food poisoning. Now, the world number 10 did not look his usual energetic self against Canada's world number 24 Brian Yang and lost the opening game 14-21 in Jakarta yesterday.
Zijia made the decision to stop playing after holding discussions with his coach, Wong Tat Ming. Now, Team LZJ later said on social media that Zijia had been suffering from food poisoning for 2 days. Unfortunately, Zijia had to retire mid-match as his body condition deteriorated after a severe case of food poisoning for the past couple of days. Now, the statement said Zijia really tried his best to perform but was unable to complete the match against Brian. Malaysia's campaign in the tournament is over after Zijia's unfortunate exit. It was the first time that the 25-year-old had lost a game to Brian after beating the Canadian in straight games in all 5 previous encounters.
In football news, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp shocked the football world on Friday by announcing he will leave the club at the end of the season because he is, quote, running out of energy, end quote. Now, Klopp, who has restored Liverpool to one of European football's powerhouses since taking over at Anfield in 2015, said the decision was taken after realizing his resources are not endless.
The 56-year-old plans to take at least a year's sabbatical from management come May and promised to Liverpool fans that he will never coach another English club.
I can understand that it's a shock for a lot of people in this moment when you hear it the first time, but obviously I can explain it, or at least try to explain it, and I love absolutely everything about this club. I love everything about the city. I love everything about our supporters. I love the team, love the staff, love everything. That I still take this decision probably will, or shows you that I'm convinced it's the one I have to take. It is that how can I say that I'm running out of energy.
Klopp led Liverpool to their first league title for 30 years in 2020 and to Champions League glory in 2019 among 7 trophies during his time at Anfield. He could add a few more in the coming months as he aims to go out on a high.
Ending up as the manager of Liverpool FC is a fairy tale and a very difficult thing to plan. I would say impossible to plan and difficult to reach. But it's only possible if you are very busy and 100,000% committed to everything you do when you dedicate your whole life to it. That's what I did. And I came here and I said it on the first day, as a normal guy. I am still a normal guy, I just don't live a normal life for too long now. And I don't want to wait until I'm too old for having a normal life. And I need at least to give it a try at one point to see how it is.
Liverpool are 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League, face Chelsea in the League Cup final next month and are still involved in the FA Cup and Europa League. Now, Klopp said he had taken the decision in November when discussions with the club about potential signings for next season began.
Atletico Madrid has signed 18-year-old midfielder Arthur Vermeeren. Now, according to the club's official statement, Vermeeren has agreed to a 6.5-year deal.
Although the official transfer fee has not been disclosed, it was reported that Antwerp, Vermeeren's previous club, will receive 22 million euros for the player, along with additional bonuses. Now, Transfermarkt values the player at 30 million euros. Vermeeren has accumulated 66 appearances, scoring 3 goals and providing 8 assists for Antwerp's first team. He has also played 2 matches for the Belgian national team. After 21 rounds, Antwerp currently holds the 6th position in the Belgian league. In the Champions League, Mark van Bommel's team finished 4th in the group alongside Barcelona, Porto and Shakhtar. Diego Simeone has also strengthened its squad with the addition of Romanian national team goalkeeper Horacio Moldovan.
Let's take a look at tennis. Jannik Sinner ended Novak Djokovic's bid for a record 25th Grand Slam title on Friday, snapping the Serb's astonishing 33-match winning run at Melbourne Park to reach his first major final. Now, the Italian 4th seed was unfazed by dropping his first set of the tournament against the king of Rod Laver Arena, winning the semi-finals 6-1, 6-2, 6-7, 6-3.
4th seed Sinner stunned Djokovic twice in 3 matches at the end of last season, and he made a rollicking start on Rod Laver Arena by targeting his 36-year-old opponent's shaky serve and error-prone backhand to comfortably win the opening set. Now, Djokovic had not lost at his favourite stomping grounds since the 2018 edition, when he crashed to South Korean Chung Hyun, and there were worrying signs for the 10 times Australian Open champion as the 22-year-old Sinner roared through the next set with a double break. Now, the Sinner tsunami showed no signs of subsiding in the 3rd set, but Djokovic raised his game to stay firm until the tie break, where the Italian squandered a match point at 6-5 by hitting a forehand into the net to give his opponent a lifeline. Djokovic claimed the next 3 points to pull a set back to draw loud cheers, but Sinner broke for a 3-1 lead in the 4th set and ran away with the match to snap the Serbs' 33-match winning run at Melbourne Park. In another semi-final match, Daniil Medvedev fought back from the brink to defeat Alexander Zverev 5-7, 3-6, 7-6, 7-6, 6-3 on Friday to advance to the Australian Open title clash. Now, having suffered heartbreak at Melbourne Park in back-to-back final defeats by Novak Djokovic and Rafa Nadal in 2021 and 2022, the former US Open champion Medvedev will hope to get 3rd time lucky when he meets Italian youngster Jannik Sinner on Sunday. Russian Medvedev positioned himself well behind the baseline to counter Zverev's booming serves and extend the rallies, but he fired a series of early double faults to fall behind. He clawed his way back from 2 breaks down to draw level at 5-all. Zverev struck again to move in front after taking the first set with a superb backhand volley, having set up the opportunity by winning the previous point after an exhausting 51-shot rally. The 26-year-old came into the net more and broke for a 3-2 lead in the second set, which effectively helped him wrap it up. But Medvedev did not give up and pinched the third set in a tiebreak. Medvedev continued to push hard in the tense fourth set before breaking in the fifth game of the decider to lay the platform for his great escape.
In motorsports, Elfyn Evans held on to his lead in the season-opening Monte Carlo rally on Friday, but serial winner Sebastien Ogier was lurking only a handful of seconds behind. The Welsh driver was unable to add to that tally on the 6 stages on the second day of the iconic rally, but held on to a slender advantage at the halfway point.
By end of the day, Ogier had moved to within 4.5 seconds of his teammate, having ended the first stage of the day 23 seconds behind. Ogier, the 8-time world champion who only competes part-time, topped the timesheets in half of the day's specials to help his quest for a 10th title in the Principality. Thierry Neuville, who was second overnight, dropped to third, 16 seconds off Evans, despite claiming the other 3 stages. He shed a dozen seconds after a loss of control in his Hyundai at the start of the day. The former world champion Ott Tanak also lost valuable time, landing his Hyundai in a ditch on the first stage, the fans helping him to get his car back on the road. The Estonian is over a minute off the lead in fourth.
In F1 news, Lando Norris has signed a contract extension with McLaren to fuel their Formula One title ambitions and take the 24-year-old British driver into the sport's new engine era in 2026 and beyond.
The deal announced on Friday also put to bed current season speculation about Norris possibly switching to Red Bull as a future teammate of triple champion Max Verstappen. Like Ferrari on Thursday, with the announcement of Charles Leclerc's extension, McLaren did not give terms of the deal, but said the pairing of Norris and 22-year-old Australian Oscar Piastri was confirmed until at least the end of 2026. McLaren, the second most successful team after Ferrari, last won a championship with Lewis Hamilton in 2008, the first of the Britain's record equaling 7. Lando enjoyed his most fruitful season to date in 2023, scoring 205 points as he finished 6th in the FIA Formula One Drivers' Championship. The 24-year-old, who recently surpassed 100 Grand Prix starts in Formula One, recorded 6 second-place finishes in total last season, including a standout drive in the British Grand Prix, where he became the first McLaren driver to finish on the podium at Silverstone since 2010. Lando also picked up a third-place finish in the Qatar GP, as well as 2 sprint race podiums.
Isu-isu sukan tempatan di pelbagai arena, pelbagai gelanggang. Pencapaian dan kontroversi akan dikupas dan dibincangkan dalam Planet Sukan setiap Ahad 10 malam di TV1 dan saluran sukan RTM. Saksikan juga secara penstrima langsung di RTM Klik.
Next in our offbeat segment, Tekken 8 reviews praise new gold standard for PS5 fighters.
The first known piece of mail sent using a postage stamp is about to hit the auction block at Sotheby's, New York. The penny black stamp dates to the 2nd of May, 1840. Now, it features the young Queen Victoria's head in profile with the words "Postage 1 penny" on handmade watermark paper with gum on the back. While the contents of the letter have been lost, the postal markings revealed a clear picture of its journey. It was sent from London on the evening of Saturday, 2nd of May, 1840, to a 35-year-old manager of an ironworks, William Blenkinsop Jr. in Dalston, Cumbria, west of London. Now, although the original sender remains unknown, the markings on the envelope revealed a journey of nearly 483 kilometers. Sotheby's global head of books and manuscripts, Richard Austin, said within 10 years of this being introduced in 1840 in England, the mail went from 75 million pieces annually to 350 million pieces annually, as it was incredibly popular. Sotheby's estimates it could sell for between 1.5 million and 2.5 million US dollars. The live auction takes place on the 2nd of February in New York City. Although most gamers already own the Mortal Kombat 1 or Street Fighter 6 games, many PlayStation players would argue that Tekken is the true fighting king out there, with excellent games such as Tekken Tag Tournament. The latest entry, Tekken 8, is already here, and the first wave of reviews are already positioning it as the greatest installment yet. The Tekken 8 is shaping up to be a strong initial contender for the best fighting game of the year, no matter whether you're playing on PS5 or the Xbox. According to reviewers, developer Bandai Namco has spent the majority of its time perfecting the core combat mechanics to make this the best version of Tekken yet. They said Tekken 8 also sets a fresh gold standard by implementing a complete graphics overhaul and a robust base game package featuring 32 characters and 16 stages. Now, Tekken 8 doesn't experiment with the Tekken formula much, sticking to one-on-one bouts rather than mixing it up as previous Tekken modes have. But it does a great job of interspersing this fight with cinematics, which is what first locked gamers into Tekken 8. Now, these cinematics see Jin and Kazuya wailing on each other in the midst of a smoldering city, slamming each other through concrete foundations or brick walls to wreak even more destruction. A dollhouse made for the British monarchs, the largest in the world according to Britain's Royal Collection, will mark its centenary with a special exhibition throughout 2024 held at Windsor Castle. The 1:12 scale building is equipped with the usual possessions of a monarch, such as a throne and crown jewels, as well as more ordinary implements like a sewing machine and a vacuum cleaner. The design was the home of a contemporary royal family of the 1920s, blending grandeur and domestic life with running water, working electric lights and elevators.
And that concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, World Court orders Israel to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza. I'm Jessica Lee. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for joining us.